Welcome to the group. Welcome, everybody. I am thrilled you are here. My name is Megan Jackson, and I am a parenting and homeschooling coach. My company is called Joyful Mud Puddles. It's a great name, talks about finding joy in the messiness of life, and my goal is to support you in any way I can in your parenting journey. The whole month of August is devoted to homeschooling, learning. It's a big topic right now going on. Parents are having to make really tough choices about sending their kids to school or not. I have respect for all of you. This is not an easy decision. We need a lot of empathy and grace with each other, with our neighbors. This is not a competition. Everyone has unique, tough situations that they're dealing with. And if you need any prayer or any support or encouragement, I'm here for you because I can see all sides of the table and I really know that this is not an easy decision. But for those of you who are looking at maybe setting up some additional learning at home, you might be going with the online learning, or maybe you've switched over to whole homeschooling. Let's take a look at that, what that might look like. And how are we going to do this? Because, it can be a little freaky. For those families who choose homeschooling, usually it's like a long decision-making, and they weigh the pros and cons and they talk about it more, not just, okay, I've got like a few weeks, let's quickly decide. So it's not an easy decision, but it can be a whole lot of fun. So I'm going to try sharing my screen. We'll see how that goes. So this is a blog post that I have up on my website. That's joyfulmudpuddles.com. If you click under resources, then you will find links to the blog, the podcast, YouTube, and all of that. But the thing we want to just start with when we decide that we're going to homeschool, number one, look at the laws surrounding homeschooling in your area. We've got an international group here. So you're going to want to check out what are the rules in your area. You can do a quick Google search or go to your local school board for that. Where I am in Ontario, it's quite open. A lot of families know that you should, totally not exactly legally required, and this year is very much messed up, but generally you would send a letter of intent to your school board and your principal, letting them know that you are no longer sending your child to the public school and they're going to be home. So if you need a copy, if you are local to me and you need Halton or Hamilton, I can get you the forms for that. Once you do that, now we're going to jump in. Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. So you want to look at the laws in your area. What paperwork do you need to actually submit? The other note is that I just found out some more information, again, locally for myself, but it might apply to others, is that once you've made that decision to pull your child, it looks like they're asking families to wait before putting them back in school. Usually, if you pull a child from school or you decide you're no longer homeschooling, it's like when you move cities and you just re-enroll your child. But because of COVID, they're trying to not have families in and out and kids coming and going as they please. So you may actually have to think of this as a decision you have to make until, say, winter, Christmas, or the next term. So just consider that when you're making your decision, that because of COVID, it might be a little trickier to put your kid back in school this year. And I apologize if I'm not seeing comments come up live. I will check or make sure I address those at the end. The biggest thing I want you to do is to consider why you're choosing to homeschool. Every family has their own unique reasons. So what is yours? What do you hope to gain from homeschooling with your children? What do you want your children to come away with at their end of their time at home with you? And you might want to look into family values. What are your long-term goals? Because for a family who's simply just doing this because of COVID, maybe till Christmas, your homeschool journey is going to look incredibly different from a family who's in this for the long term, who wants to road school or do radical unschooling. See what I mean? Your why is your overarching big mission, your goal, and that is going to help you filter out a lot of the finer details. Now that you have a big picture, and take time to journal. If you're watching the replay, press pause, write this down, share it in the group, ask me, let's talk about this. We want to find out, why are you even doing this, and what do you hope to gain from it? Once you do, you're going to start filtering everything through that. You also want to mention about deschooling. Deschooling is a process of adjusting to time at home together. Some of you have taken the summer off, which is fantastic. You're getting used to being at home together, finding out each other's interests. Parents are learning more about what homeschooling is and how that's going to work. Your kids are not used to you being their teacher. It's a whole different mindset being in a school classroom setting versus trying to recreate that classroom setting at home. Your home, it's not going to work. It will look different and it will feel different. And so deschooling is a process of taking time for that and letting it sink in. And so you don't have to quickly jump into school September 1st. It might take you a bit of adjustment. The next thing I want to remind you is to learn about different methods, styles, and philosophies. Don't go and overwhelm yourself here, especially, again, if you are more of a COVID schooling family. I'm not sure if that term is offensive or not, but if you're in it for the short term, don't overwhelm yourself with all the possibilities. But what I do want to point out is that you do not have to recreate school at home unless you want to. There are other ways of doing school, just like there's private schools, public schools, homeschooling, Montessori, Waldorf, all these different things, because each family, each child learns differently. And so if you want to, you could look into them just to open your mind and learn a little more. And maybe as time goes on, you want to introduce a little more to it. Like, take your time with these things. Don't just jump in full force and then burn out. Do one thing well, pick one curriculum, one workbook, one way of doing things. Start at your own personal comfort level, because you're the one that's bringing it to your family. So start where you feel comfortable. And then once you feel confident in that one thing, then add in more, then explore, go off on these rabbit trails. I would hate for you to get a bad view of homeschooling because you've jumped in and done too much and then it didn't work for you. Along with knowing what methods are out there, you might also want to learn about how your child learns best. The greatest way of doing that is to focus on connection with your child, because when you connect with your kids, you learn more about them. You learn what they're interested in. You learn what they're capable of. This is a great tip. Ask your child to teach you something. That way, however they teach you, often, not always, but often, they do it in a way that they receive and learn best. What I mean is, say you ask your child to teach you whatever they're interested in. Let's go with video games, lots of kids like that. If they start drawing you pictures and doing it that way, then maybe they're a visual learner. If they just talk your ears off, then maybe they learn better by listening. Or if they physically get the game and they're more of a hands-on learner, they might show you in the way that they learn best. And it really brings about a lot of learning that way. I can see we have a lot of comments, so I'm really excited to see what everyone has to say. And also, again, sometimes with this, the type of learner that your child is, and a lot of parents worry that they're not helping their child with their weaknesses. When you focus on their strengths, then you can bring in other styles, other ways of learning in a more less threatening way. You're not intimidating them because they already feel confident in that area that you're learning. So if your child is really great with the hands-on, do a picture, do some listening activities once in a while to strengthen that, but don't throw it all on and force the issue. Okay, now comes the fun part. This is where you want to figure out what you're actually going to teach your children. And I'm going to camp here for a minute on that. So I'm going to come back to this. Step 6, pick your curriculum. And I'm going to come back to that. Step 7 would be actually planning it out, figuring out your rhythm for the day, your schedule for the day. And I'm going to be doing a special workshop on that separately as well for that. And then step 8, 9, give it a go. Jump in, do it, give it a try. Slowly add more in each day and adjust as necessary. So I'm going to kind of go back, track through 6 through 9, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I don't think that reading the words is going to benefit you. But if you do go to this web blog post, and I'll add that in the links under the video, look at how many blog posts I've linked to. Isn't that amazing? There's over 22. I think there's more like 25 different, just to give you some light reading. Okay, nice bedtime light reading. Okay, so I had some specific questions. In fact, I'm getting that question through private messaging every single day. Okay, this is great. I'm going to homeschool. What actually am I going to do with them? What curriculum do you recommend? That is as unique as the number of children out there. Oh, okay, because homeschooling, there's now so much more variety, but I'm going to give you a couple tips, okay? And I posted a post about that as well, outlining some of the major companies. Pick what you feel comfortable with and start off inexpensive or borrowing from a friend until you know it's the right thing for you. Otherwise, you'll spend a whole lot of money. Also, each year and each child, not all curriculum fits all your kids. That's why if you're just starting out, don't go in with the highest, most biggest, expensive, fancy thing unless you're sure that's going to work for your family. A lot of websites have free samples, so check those out. Most homeschoolers end up being an eclectic mix over the years because not one particular method fits for you. And I'm going to do a separate podcast or another live on that, specifically about finding the heart of homeschooling and creating a journey that's unique for your family. But if we're talking specifically about curriculum, for those of you who are new to homeschooling, and I would say that's the majority of people who have recently just joined this group, you're probably looking at short-term, if you are short-term homeschoolers, and you're just doing this and you want to stay close to the curriculum of your school, then an open and go curriculum that lays it out for you and tells you what to teach each day might be your comfort level, might be something that you want to look into. So you're probably on that little infographic going to want to go with traditional or free. And look in those two little squares. So something like easy peasy all-in-one, it's free and it has by grade, and that's going to hit the major topics. If you're Canadian, you just might want to switch up the geography or the history. Also, if you're just in this for the short term, or you're just starting out with homeschooling and you haven't quite found your groove or your method, try to think of what's most important for you and your family. Most families, it tends to be math and English. So find some math workbooks or find a math program that you're like, okay, we're going to do math every other day, or we'll do just a short bit of math every day to keep up on that skill while mommy's figuring out what else we're going to do. And for English, you might want to just have, 15 minutes of reading every day, and then find either an English workbook that you like, that you want to just, use as guidance, or Brave Writer that I had Julie on the other day. She has a lot of products that can be really overwhelming for some families. But if you look into the Arrow and Boomerangs, that is like a little book novel study. So you're reading, there's writing assignments in there, and there's grammar included. So that's sort of like a nice mini getting to know you. And you can buy individual ones from Brave Writer for like $7 to $11. So it's not breaking the bank, and it gives you an idea. And there's also some free samples of popular books. Like I think James and the Giant Peach is free. So you can check that out. What I'm saying is go easy on yourself, pick simple. Even those big book of grade 2 from Costco, or one of those books online is an okay place to start. It's a starting point. It'll tell you what topics your child would learn in your country or your grade level. And then, so as a parent, you're like, okay, I'm at least hitting the major things they'd be doing in school. And if your kid doesn't love workbooks, at least you can use that as a review or a starting point, and then add to it. That's when you go to the library. That's when you watch cool videos or have discussions or go on field trips. So you're adding to it, but at least as just a starting point, so you feel confident that you're not messing up your kids or missing out on something major. Then it's okay to start with a workbook that's like, the Complete Canadian grade 3. They're not that expensive. It's not going to break the bank, and it gives you a starting point. And then go off from there with your child's learning styles. Again, if you're looking for more guidance, like I need to know what I'm supposed to say, I want the scripting, then take a look at either Easy Peasy. Some families really like the Good and the Beautiful, and they have free PDF versions of a lot of their curriculum online as well. So you can get all of that. So that's a bit about curriculum. Hopefully that was helpful. If I didn't address that question, please check in with me as well. The next big question that I had previously that people asked me to address was multiple children. Okay, this sounds great. I send my kid to school and they all go off to different classes with different teachers at the same time. Now you're asking me to go like Little House on the Prairie and have a one-room schoolhouse. How does that even work? And it is totally doable. So don't stress. Just work on your managing your time. What a lot of families do, and you don't have to do this. These are just some suggestions, and I'd be happy to work with you on coming up with what's going to work for your family. It depends on the age of your children. So if you have a lot of little ones around, it's going to look different than if your kids are older and more independent. A lot of families like to start their day with like a morning basket where they're doing read alouds, and that could be on a variety of different topics. It could be a chapter book, a picture book, even a history book or an art book. So starting with reading is sometimes nice. Other families like to start with a walk and just get some movement, get the wiggles out, and then come in and get started. You can try to have kids doing the same subject at the same time, or say, I'm going to send one kid off to do some quiet reading while I work individually with another child on their math. So it's going to take a little fiddling to see what works best for your family. I love to encourage families to try to do as much as they can together. So if you're all doing art, you can all do art together on the kitchen table, bring out all the paints, and then maybe one is doing a picture of what, like, pioneers if they're in grade 3 or 4, and one's doing space if they're, say, in grade 6. but they're both painting at the same time. Or my family, we did unit studies because we're longtime homeschoolers. So I was trying to see what can we all learn the same unit at the same time. So we all did medieval times. And I had picture books for my 4-year-old, and I had videos for the older boys, and they did projects, and everybody did a project. They all had poster boards, but it was at what their level. So the amount of writing and the amount of involvement was at their own level, but we were all studying the same topic at the same time. So that's another approach that families like to do, is see if there's any crossover in topics, see if there's any way you can do things at the same time. I also want to give you permission, and it's like I officially give you, the Joyful Mud Puddles, permission that you don't have to work individually with every single child every single day. That's just not even going to be possible. Maybe Monday you do some one-on-one time with your oldest, and maybe Tuesday you hit the next child, and Wednesday you hit the next child. Throughout the week, you're still engaging, but they're getting one-on-one time a little more spread out. You also don't have to do every subject every day. Remember, we're not in school. It doesn't take 8 hours. If you look at any guidelines that have been out posted around, you'll see that for the younger kids, you're going for like 20 minutes to half an hour, up to an hour for the middle grades, to 2 to 3 hours for like high school, because you aren't doing those transition times and recess and lunch. Like, the actual learning is short and condensed. So you could do like Monday is all about math. And that's what we're doing. Monday is math, and Friday is Fine Arts Friday. And they're still doing the reading and the writing. Or you might have it so that you do like a little math facts every day, but do a bigger math day on Wednesday. Does that make sense? I know it's very vague. It's a very up and down, because you get to pick what works for your family. You are welcome to do every subject every day, but you will probably burn out and get a lot of pushback from your kids. So try to keep it short and sweet. And remember, focus on your goals. So if your goals are just to keep up on reading and writing, then those extra topics and units, you use those as the interesting part to do the writing. Does that make sense? So if you're wanting to do some science or history as well as writing, well, then why don't they write about the history or read about the history? Now you're combining subjects. See? You don't have to do separate subjects. You can actually combine them. And then you could do the math and the baking and cooking and board games. And there's so much learning going on that way when you're expanding your idea that learning doesn't just have to come from a textbook. And teachers don't do that either. So if I got any teachers on board, I'm not trying to say that school is bad. I'm just saying that homeschooling looks a little different than in a classroom, because also you don't have 30 to 40 kids that you're trying to manage. And they do a wonderful job. My goodness, I've seen so many cool teachers bringing in board games and interesting topics. So try not to just focus on just doing workbooks and things. I hope this makes sense. We've talked a lot about how to do it, what curriculum am I going to choose. We've talked about families, because you can combine units, you can. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was making use of your kids. Okay, so if you have an older child, they could read to a younger child. That means your younger child's getting read to, the older child is practicing their reading, and it's a win-win for everybody. So have your kids learn and teach and work together. That's a really great idea too. I will go through and make sure I check on any other questions. Big takeaway, and I'm going to do again a separate post on this, is that the heart of homeschooling is home. You're at home, it looks different than school. You're a family, and you need to make some adjustments and figure out what works for you. And I will be going and moving into a lot of gentle parenting techniques that are going to help you and encourage you in your homeschooling as well. Sorry, I keep saying the last few things on the sort of step-by-step how to homeschool. One is to kind of commit, jump in. When you're looking at curriculum, I really recommend that you try to choose a company that's been around for a while and established. You're going to be seeing a whole lot of things popping up because of COVID. Little one-off, here, do this, do that, do this, do that, buy into me, buy into them. Go with something well established and commit to a few months and then reassess. Give it time and tweak it. You do not have to do everything that's written in the manual that you choose, but at least put some effort into it and then adjust so that you're not wishy-washy all over the place. But do adjust if it's not working. Don't keep going if you're all hating it. I often, if I have two choices of curriculum that, like, I could go either way, they both look good, you can combine them or ask your kids. How cool would that be if mom gave me some choices as to what curriculum or what style or what topic are we going to do? So involve your kids, it's their learning too. I'm going to try to see if I can see me live and see if there's any questions popping up. Let me just check. Okay, I don't see any major questions popping up right now. So write them in the comments if there's anything, if I didn't address you. Have a wonderful day, have a joyful day. Couple quick announcements for the group is that each week on Monday, there's a new podcast episode going out with an associated YouTube version and a blog post. And it's all homeschooling this month. So next Monday will probably be me with this live video, and I'll add to it talking about homeschooling. I have a really wonderful Waldorf curriculum, and she talks a lot about homeschooling. She gives some really great advice too for families combining children, like working if you have multiple children. I have a minimalist homeschooler. She actually has a book called The Minimalist Homeschooling. And in between that, on Wednesdays, there's other blog posts that I have about learning environments, homeschooling, and all of that. Some of them are guest posts. I have a guest post specifically on curriculum coming up as well. I'm just waiting for that. And if there's anything else, let me think. Yes. Visit my website. If you want to ever work one-on-one with me or in group settings, I offer a lot. I have the homeschool coaching, Joyful Homeschooling, which I have we do more in depth. I also really so excited about Joyful Parenting. It's a 9-week parenting course that encompasses so much, homeschooling included. So if you're looking for some parenting advice, gentle parenting, as well as meeting your specific individual needs, visit my website for that. And we also do a lot with children. We're currently in the middle of the Joyful Kids Club, which is an emotion coaching course for children, teaching them about coping skills and self-regulation. The next round or the next time that will be coming up is more likely in October if the wait list gets long enough. So we'll run that class again in the fall. I think that's mostly it. Oh, just a reminder, I would absolutely love it if you would consider writing a rating and a review for any of, or a comment. So if you visit my blog or YouTube or podcast or my business Facebook page, I would truly, truly appreciate any reviews or ratings that you would consider giving me. It just helps other people know the quality of my work and helps others to find me and this group and get the support that they need. Take care, everyone, and have a joyful day.